Is it on? Did everybody hear that? All right. I'm going to do my best to fight through the sniffles. Oh, shit, actually, the sniffles. I think, yeah, maybe this is going to have to be my mic to respect you guys.
Sounds
seriously.
good.
Yeah. Because it's been raining here, and it's been cold. And we got up here early on Tuesday evening to get acquainted with the land and to help set up and to meet with these fine folks here who I've been very excited to have this conversation with. I wanted to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves in a second, but I just wanted to say that the discussion that we're about to have was brought about by some pretty startling mornings for me, waking up to phone calls, hearing the news that, oh, you know, you got land in Crestone, right? Yeah. Oh, did you hear about the building code changes? No. Oh, it's coming fast. You better get your building plans in. So, you know, my friends who had advised me to buy land here over the last 3 years, we've been researching land in Crestone, and I've been living in Taos, New Mexico. And, you know, why would I come to Colorado to buy land and build my house when I very well know that I could build an alternative structure in New Mexico? Well, Crestone's a very special place. And this entire experience has been an educational one for me because this is just one town within a greater county. And, you know, I wanted to take an opportunity this year to host this discussion because of its importance. You know, it's not often that there actually is something that is so crucial that, you know, it kind of puts everything else to the side. I'd love to come up and have fun and talk about aircrete and talk about, you know, the way that you can hybridize an Earthship and, you know, all these new alternative materials that are coming out. That was last year. You know, last year the panel was comprised of people who were presenting new alternatives. This year the panel is comprised of people who, for the most part, are new acquaintances of mine, not longtime friends. I haven't even built with most of them. You know, I think, Liza, you and I, this might be the first time we're really having a discussion. But the reason why these people are here is because they are the people in the know, or they are the people who are at the spearhead of the movement that was basically like thrust upon us when, you know, as I came to learn years ago, the different, you know, mandates started to come down from the county or started to come down from the state. And, you know, I'm new in the game, so for me, this was the first one. And in case y'all didn't know, there's no building codes here except for plumbing and electrical. We're going to get into that in a second. But just to get y'all to understand what I'm talking about here is basically the difference between me and my father being able to build the house that we want with the materials we want versus basically having to, you know, completely bend over backwards to get engineer, architect stamp drawings and change our whole plan and everything. So after I got the call, I started to go to county meetings, get more involved, and get educated. And what I learned was that if I really wanted to build the house of my dreams, we were going to have to put our building plans in soon, you know, way sooner than we expected. So I got to drafting them up. We got to putting our plans in. And I don't want to tell you what the result was yet because we're going to get to that. I just want to let everyone know that these are the people who I found myself in discussions with trying to figure out what was going to happen moving forward. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. I'd like you to let everyone know, obviously, your name and kind of a little bit maybe about your career or what your main passions are, and also how long have you been living in this area and what brought you to this area? Maybe, yeah, let's start with Sean.
All right, is this on? Okay, good. My name's Sean King. I moved out here about a year ago, June, with my soon-to-be 9-year-old daughter. I came here in part because I wanted to build my own house. I'm a natural builder with an emphasis on cob, and also an educator with an emphasis on educating people on how to design and build their own houses. And I am, you know, personally and intellectually, everything on all levels, interested in the fundamental liberty to build your own shelter, to shelter yourself and your family effectively, you know, without excessive cost and interference from whatever powers that be. That's a bit of my story.
Thank you, Sean. I'm so privileged to be up here with such good company, and I just a little gratitude. I'm so thankful for this beautiful stage we're on, and for this Crestone Energy Fair and all the volunteers behind it who have been coming to this for years and am always inspired and learn more about community solving its own solutions for a sustainable life on this planet. My name is Liza Marin. I am a resident of Swatch County for 35 years. I am the founding director of the San Luis Valley Local Foods Coalition, and I am also a freshman county commissioner for Swatch County. And I want to just be clear today that I am not here representing Swatch County. I'm here as an individual commissioner and sharing my passions and beliefs and values, but I don't represent Swatch County's decisions other than sharing the history of what's taken place. And just like I believe in local food solutions and local food systems, I believe in the human right to shelter yourself and local housing solutions.
Hey there, I'm Brett Buchanan. I've been in Crestone about 3 years now. I came out here to see my brother and fell in love with the place. And I'm a builder by trade. I have been involved in commercial construction, residential construction. I have my own company. It's called Crescent Moon Construction. I'm a sponsor of the Energy Fair. And when I came to Crestone, my reasons for settling here was no building codes. I realized to be creative and really enjoy my own structure, I could come here and build without codes. And so that was, you know, the impetus of me being here. Plus I live in the mountains. Excuse me. But was excited to get involved in this whole building code process, and we can chat about that more later. But you know, I guess I got involved with this process because I understand codes to a certain degree and wanted to help the county as well as the rest of the citizens to protect that and to be able to build creatively here.
Thanks, Brett. Hello, how's everybody enjoying the fair? Thank you for coming. So my name's Lisa Bodie. I'm the director of the Energy Fair. So very honored to have all of you here, and thank you, Eric, for this important panel and our panelists. I'm here just to give a little bit of the history of how one of our groups started. So obviously we've got the Energy Fair, and we have these amazing people, demonstrations. It's the 34th annual. But our group, as we started to pay attention to what was happening with building and happening across the county, we have another organization called Crestone Energy Exchange. It's separate from the fair, but it's a way that we can become more advocates in the community and get involved in more of the political process and in with legislation and these codes. So we formed a group. Well, let me back up. I moved here in 2007, so I've been here almost 16 years. And I've been living in a tiny house that I built, 150 square feet, completely off grid, and just absolutely love it. It freed me up from having a mortgage. It freed me from having that debt to where I could participate in the community on all these levels. So it was really 2 years ago in November of 2021, the county came and they were going to put a 900 square foot minimum across unincorporated Swatch County. And so we formed a mindful land use solutions group to put under that energy exchange so we could go to meetings, advocate for all of the constituents. And through that process, we just learned a lot, but we really came at it that we want to see new models. So often when we see a change coming at a governmental level, there's a reaction, a resistance, and we want to create that circle that we're all at the table equally, whether it's you're the commissioners, the planning commission, your inspectors, your engineers, the citizens, that we can really come up with solutions together in a very good way, really respecting each other, hearing each other's opinions, and get away from those old models of the us versus them. It's like we have to create solutions together at this level locally to impact the county, the state, that federal level when it comes to building. So that's just a little of my background. I'm going to let you guys probably take it off, right? You want me to stay? I don't need to stay.
Does everybody want her to stay?
Who wants Lisa Bodie to stay?
No pressure. No pressure.
I was going to run.
Yeah.
Okay. Can
Well, go get water. Yeah, you can come back. You can come back.
I'll go grab that and then I'll...
Yeah, this conversation gets me jazzed up for that reason. You know, I'm coming into it late in the game. These people, what Lisa's talking about, the mindful land use, it's already unfathomable to me that there's not more of a kind of community backing and organization behind this, because really what happened was, you know, it was, I mean, I don't want to misspeak here. I really want you guys to tell the story. Like, I already said how I figured it out. Pete called me. He was like, yo, dude, you know what's going down? You know, this is going to affect you guys. And I said, no, I don't know what's going down. Also, it's like 8 a.m. or whatever. And now I'm like, oh, God, what's going on? But how did you find out about the code changes? Do you remember?
I'm not sure I do remember, actually. I remember that there was immediate action. There was a meeting called among people who are owner builders and are interested in this. And I knew that I had some technical background. I work in regulation some of the time, and I wanted to be of service. So I jumped right in to help organize some of the conversations that were happening there. But we had an immediate community response. It was really strong, very unified, and it, you know, really good things came out of it. So I'm not sure how much more to say about that. Liza, do you have some comments?
I also just wanted to give context for people of when during the year this was, because I'm not giving a month or a day or a, you know, also from the commissioner or the county's standpoint, you know, is this something where the state was, as soon as they passed the bill, you were notified? And was that last year technically, or how long since you were notified?
Yeah, so in 2022, there was an energy bill that was passed, and it actually had really good intentions to increase the energy efficiency of the building in the state of Colorado. And when I was campaigning for commissioner, I was attending planning commission and county commissioner meetings, and I got to witness the response from the Mindful Land Use Solution Group when they came to fight for the square footage that was being considered. And it was a beautiful sharing of data using the land use code's own language to convince the planning commission that actually for the medium income and the medium cost of a house here and the cost of square footage, at least 50% of the folks in Saguache County couldn't even enter the housing market. But at $250 a square foot for a 150 square foot tiny home, that's a $37,500 build if you have someone build it for you. And it was a beautiful, compelling presentation, and the Planning Commission was compelled, and we actually did pass the 150 square foot minimum with an extra 100 feet for every additional person that might live in that space. And so when I was seated as a new commissioner, it turns out that land use and the land use departments across the valley of the 6 counties had been getting together and talking about a response to this 2022 legislation. And there was a consultant from Xcel Energy that was Hope Medina, who was doing these presentations and working with this group. And it wasn't until April of 2023 that actually land use brought this to us. And the rule was, or the story was, that if you don't adopt building codes by June 30th of 2023, you will have the 2021 most stringent energy codes forced upon you. So it was a very fearful presentation. And the 2021 energy codes require that you, and you're more well-versed than I am, but that you had your, electric vehicle ready and your solar ready, and really high thresholds for the building that you have to do. And so the county as a whole, because of Cleve Simpson, who's our senator, he passed some legislation or some language that actually rural counties could adopt any of the last 3 versions if they did it by June 30th, either 2012, 2015, or 2018, I believe. And so we were in this hurry up mode to figure out what to do in 2 months' time before this June 30th deadline. And I was freaked out, so I called Brett because I had listened to him be part of the Mindful Land Use Solutions. I knew he was a builder, and I just felt like we needed some expertise from the community. And that's kind of how I feel like 2 months before the deadline, we were dealing with it.
For me, I got involved back in November of 2021 with some code changes affecting square footage, but also I think it was ADUs as well as workshops, and was it sanitation? And sanitation as well. So we got involved back in November of 2021, Lisa and I, and a small group of people to work with the county, because as a builder, I'm not only a builder, but I'm also an owner builder. We've got property out in Moffett, Lisa and I do. And with that property, it's rugged. You know, the conditions are, it's wind, it's rain, it's snow, it's freezing temperatures. Having a workshop or a shed for materials and tools is key. So we worked with the county to, you know, push for the allowance for workshops and sheds. But also for square footage.
Prior to your build being complete.
Yeah, prior to your build being complete. So the first thing that we built was a workshop, just to house all that kind of stuff, but also square footage. We worked with the county to get our minimum to be 150 square feet when the county was pushing for 900 square feet. And a lot of my neighbors out there, it's campers, it's tiny homes, it's smaller structures. And a lot of us don't need 900 square feet, 150 square feet. Our cabin is 234 square feet, and it's very suitable for us. So we got involved back then, and it was not only for us, but it was also for everyone else in this county to not be required to build such a large structure. With building costs out here, we're, you know, the state average, I believe, is 287 square feet as a median for cost. Yeah, $287 per square foot is a median for the state. I'm building a house right now in Crestone for $600 a square foot. If you're an owner builder, you can build it for $50 to $100 a square foot. But if you're forced to go 900 square feet, or if you're required to do 2021 codes or 2018 codes or energy codes, that'll skyrocket even more. But that's why I got involved, is just to help with that process and protect the rights of all the residents here in the valley.
I got involved because I'm crazy. I got a call, you know, and I had been gone. I got a call, and I was like, hey, there's a meeting. They're going to be voting on this, you know, in a month. So what we did is we catalyzed the community, utilizing our Energy Fair folks, saying, hey, we're going to do some open discussions and create this new group, Mindful Land Use. So we had meetings in Crestone. We had some meetings in Moffett. Even thanks to Doug Beechwood, who's live streaming today. He came for one of ours to help us film it and get it out so we could get out it on Zoom in a better way. But even through that process, we've realized the technology to engage our residents isn't up to speed. And so it's something we've really been encouraging the county, that you've got to have your meetings online in this day and age, especially in a very large county. We have a lot of seniors who aren't going to drive at night to come, and then even for the financial reasons. So we really started looking at those equity pieces too, of how do we engage a larger group of people and come to the table. And thanks, Mo. Mo's out in the audience too. She is a big person behind this. But I don't want people to get confused. We had these minimum square footage. So we were like, woohoo, we worked on that, got them to stay at the state 150 plus 100 square foot for each additional person. Then we got the approval to keep that ADU or the shed or a workshop prior to your construction build. Because we said, why would we do that after? Where do we house materials? From weather, from theft, from the elements, from all of it. So we got that passed. Then it led into, with that in 2021, was also on-site wastewater treatment systems, and that's really where Sean's come in. We're kind of going up to date with some pieces that you can share later. And so then there was a break, and we're like, whoo, we got through all of this. We're looking good. And then, like Eliza said, it was just this last April when the new codes were being pushed at that state level. And we're all like, oh, we don't think that this is how we have to do this. And Sean will tell a little bit more of how we got looked at the legislation or the policies to say, no, we can go this way locally. So I just wanted to recapture that we had this work prior. The county was amazing working with us, and they are one of our sponsors, so thank you, Saguache County. They've always supported these events through their sales tax grants. So it brings us up to current date that we're just, as you said, kicking the can down the road. So how do we proactively work with all of you, those of you online, a broader network with these frontier rural situations that are way different than you're looking at? I want to say, okay, so frontier, one of the things we brought to them is rural, even a rural setting would be like Alamosa, Salida. You have these major, what we call major towns around us, and we're very small. There's 8,000 residents and how many square feet? Do we know?
3,100 square miles and about 7,000 people. So we're about 1.9 person per square mile, which rural or frontier is meant to be less than 7 people per square mile.
Yeah, so basically we're living in a different way. Our access to resources, our access to qualified builders and to crews, we're in a radically different situation. And then when you throw on top, if you're the homeowner builder, our timelines are different. And a lot of these methods, like if you go to our natural build that's happening on the main road when you come in, they're demonstrating all of these different techniques. Some of this is still experimental, and others are not. They're very old with your Adobes and your Cobb, and we need that research proving some of these next pieces with the new level of codes. And I'm going to pass it on back.
Yeah, so the reason why this distinction between rural and frontier is so important is because they're passing legislation and they're talking about, okay, well, not only does it apply in Denver and Colorado Springs, but it's also all of the rural counties out there, all of these outlier counties who have not yet adopted the codes. But then when you actually do the math and you look at how many people per square mile there are here, we're talking about a totally different situation. This is not rural. This is frontier. The people who are here are literally paving the way in a certain regard. If you think historically, the coal miners or the ranchers that first settled the land, it's not only important because we're these freaks and weirdos who want to build with aircrete and pound dirt into tires and do earth bags and all this stuff. It's important because when you get into the configuration that we are in here, where you have an hour drive to Salida, you have an hour drive to Alamosa, it's very, very important to be able to use the materials that are at hand to construct your dwellings, or to be able to be creative in order to do so. Because now we're not talking about material availability. We're not talking about, oh, you could just get a truck to come deliver it. You've got a huge, fuel expense, time expense, human labor expense. There's so many things that go into this that it becomes a larger discussion, which is the discussion why we're here about the energy fair. Reimagining this, reimagining home, right? And so this is not just a fight because we're these owner builders who are sitting here in the corner that want to live in our tiny homes, or we want to build some kind of, weird passive solar home, and we need to be able to still build this way. No. This is like, we're talking about sawmills, local sawmills being shut down because the new code says that you have to use stamped lumber, kiln-treated stamped lumber. And meanwhile, could you explain that? What happened there with... You did a pretty good job, but sure. Yeah. But I mean, this is a real... I don't know the gentleman's name or the business, so could you please just elaborate? We're talking about businesses, local businesses, long-term established, going out of business.
Yeah, so the 2018 code that was being considered is about 1,000 pages long, and that's just one of them. There's 12 of them, but we were looking at the international IRC, International Resident Code, the International Building Code, the International Energy Conservation Code, and the International mechanical code, and they're all like 1,000 pages long. And no way in this 2 months did we have the knowledge of what the unintended consequences could be. And Richard Drake, who is a sawmill owner and is on the chair of the Planning Commission, in a joint meeting discussing these building codes, said, you know, I don't know if you know this, but it would require that all lumber used in our county, if we pass these codes, has to be stamped lumber, very similar to having to have a USDA processing facility to eat a steak or to a piece of chicken. And so it'd be the same thing with our lumber mills. And we have 2 in the county and 5 in the valley that I know of that would be put out of business because we would have required this stamped lumber. The other thing is if we were to pass the International Fire Code, which we might actually have more of a concern about, you can't use wood for decks or many things. And so in this wood-rich environment, that's pretty concerning.
Yeah, and I wanted to just, now that we're getting a little deeper into the specifics, Sean is one of the people who dug deeper into, and Sean and Brett really dug deep into the paperwork. So, you know, I would like to hear a little bit from you. Like, you said that your partner had been in legislation, and you brought this to them, and you were digging through it.
That's correct. Melissa Swickert, who's mother to my daughter, is also a legislative analyst in California. And I said, hey, we need some help out here. Can you take a look at this bill? And she did. And what she discovered and very carefully documented was that what the bill basically does says if you haven't passed a code, if a county has not already adopted a code or passed a code, the state cannot force you to. As soon as you have adopted a code, then the door is open for the state to require you to take on X, Y, or Z code stipulations. And so it was a bit of a trap, honestly, coming from the state level to get the frontier counties to sign up and sign on. And you know, one of the things I like to say is that front range solutions don't work in frontier counties. And that is something that we need to keep in mind. It's a different context. So when you try and come up with something that's going to work in Boulder or Denver or whatever, don't expect it to apply here. And one of the main things about that is outside of the owner-builder realm and the experimental builder realm and natural builder realm is the cost and the concern about poverty. And Liza can speak much more eloquently about this than I can, but I think the median income here is $25,000 a year or something like that. You know, there's a. Oh, you're great, beautiful. You can. I'll leave that to her. But this is a poverty issue and not just a liberty issue. Both of them overlap very tightly, and you know there can be unintended consequences of direct harm to people just because of the costs associated with codes. So in addition to the liberty issue, which I feel strongly about, there's also the economics, which is part of my scene. I don't believe I could afford to house myself and my daughter without being able to use some of these alternative techniques. You know, if in case people aren't aware, the term mortgage means death pledge. Mortgage, death pledge. It means you sell your life to house yourself. So I'm also interested in that aspect of it, like, you know, can we not do that to ourselves and our communities, please? So anyway, I'm going to pass this to Liza.
Well, I just went on the San Luis Valley Development Resources Group and got the 2023 statistical profile, and the median income for Saguache County in 2023 is $48,413. That's for a household, compared to the state of Colorado, which is $80,000. And 26% of our residents live with $25,000 or less in under the poverty level. So that's something to think about when you do the math that 30% of your income goes towards housing, and to get a loan, which is not, you know, many people are choosing not to go that route, but to get a loan, the median household that I saw was on Rocket Homes was $335,000, and on another one, Redline, was $419,000. So if you do the math, less than just the upper echelon of our community can even afford to get a mortgage. So the numbers tell the story.
One interesting stat that I found today was that the the median, let's see, where is this? It's at my notes. In 2021, the median house price in Colorado was $256,000 in Swatch County. In 2022, it was $348,000. In 2023, it was $449,000. In Colorado as a whole, we have a housing shortage of 325,000 units. The average that we build in a year in Colorado is 40,000. So with these code changes, there's no way we can meet the needs of the people. And even the affordability measures that the state is employing affects, they're marketing more towards an upper end of housing and not a lower end of housing. So to really address the housing issue for this area or for the state, for the lower income, they're not going to do it. The way we do it is through natural building, and the way we do it is through owner builders, and the way we do it is through working with the counties to allow us to build in a reasonable manner.
And a reasonable manner might not be, take it for example that, normally you would take a building loan and try to get that thing cranked up, dried in as fast as possible. And now you have to, at least in the POA, maybe not in Saguache County, but at least in the POA here in Crestone, you have to have 900 square feet minimum. So it just automatically puts the numbers at a certain bracket. I know we're talking a lot of numbers here, but it's just like if you have to build 900 square feet and you're going to have to take a loan to do that, and there's the rules and regulations around that, which is what my dad and I were looking into, we immediately slotted ourselves right into the straight and narrow. We were like, okay, we've got to get within 2 years, we've got to get dried in because that's the county's requirement for exterior finish. And then after that, we can, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it literally dictates everything. We're talking about the difference between just probably even 5 years ago, I don't maybe dare to say, but definitely 10 years ago, incremental builders who were doing it on their timeline. And incremental builders could also be a thorn in the side if you're an authority and you're looking to get rid of somebody who's got Tyvek on the outside of their house for however long. But even you look at drive around the Baca right now, people have Tyvek on the outside of their homes, which I guarantee you are $500,000 homes. Doesn't matter whether you're an owner builder or someone who's building, with a crew, and you've got the porta potty and you've got a building loan or whatever, what have you, however you're getting your financing, there are stages to building. And the stages could be fast forwarded because you need to just pump, capital into the construction to get it done because of the different legislation and pressures that are upon you. Or you could do it the realistic way that it's been done for most of human history in frontier places like this. And literally anybody who builds knows it's a never-ending process. From the moment you break ground and start that foundation, you're going to be slowly plodding along until you have a door on, and then eventually you're going to have a flushing toilet, and then eventually the flushing toilet in the bathroom is going to have maybe even some tile around it, and that's going to be cool. You know what I mean? And the shower cabin's finally going to have that, silicone on it. So what I'm leading you into here, I'm just paving the way for you to talk about incremental building and to talk about your proposed kind of amendment, or how can we meet the codes, right? How can we not just sit here and be like, well, you guys can't do this to us because we need to take a long time to build, and there's this is unfair. It's like, well, how can we make it so that there's maybe a clause within the law, a clause within the building code that allows for, and that is not only allowing for straw bale, but then straw bale that you have to build with a mortgage and a building loan, and it has to be done within 2 years, but something that is an incremental build as well. That's what you're talking about, right? If we can get the mic back to Sean.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually working on some legislation that I'm calling the Colorado Self-Reliance Act, and it's designed to reserve the right of counties to take on code or not, and to develop alternatives to code, which I think should be part of the conversation. A lot of the conversation is code or no code. I think we can develop ways to manage issues in the community where there are real issues, and that's also a conversation because they're a problem. A lot of cases I've seen houses that would never pass code and weren't, certified for code or whatever, and they've been in service for 20 or 30 years with no leaks and no fire issue and no cracks in the outside, and nothing's wrong with this house. It's perfect. It's fine. Thank you. So those are all conversations that are part of it. The legislation I work on is just sort of like meant to push back on the state to say, well, if it's a frontier county, your solutions don't work here. We don't want that. It doesn't work for our community. It can't address issues of poverty. If you prevent people from sheltering themselves by their own means, you're creating homelessness potentially, and that's a serious issue, and that's something that Liza speaks to very eloquently. So here are that's kind of a picture of some of the things that I'm working on. I'm working on with everyone in the community, the mindful land use community and other members of the Crestone community that's involved with these issues on both technical and regulatory levels. And these are all really important conversations to have. It's important to have them clearly and to have try not to fall into traps of fear or reactivity, and stay creative around what can be done here.
Oh. Well, I was just going to go back. When we started, we're like, how will the county even hear us? And so we used our own master plan. So I was going to throw that just in when you said about equity. So because the Saguache County Master Plan, G210, says promote housing that is inclusive of a variety of incomes, lifestyles, and age groups. Cool. So that's what we're asking. And then we went into their construction permit pieces and their articles. And in that, it says general provisions. The Board of County Commissioners recognizes the need to protect the public while maintaining an environment that encourages the development of diverse structure styles and methods. So we've got that. And then the third one was, it is also understood that it is in the best interest of the county as a whole to preserve a diverse economic structure in which all residents can obtain suitable housing. So we actually took the master plan in those first meetings, and when you lay these three things out, it really opened that we have to have these discussions. And it's kind of proven, if you look at our community, it's so integrated, and diverse housing and diverse economic base equals a much healthier ecosystem and community for us. Because we're seeing already, there was a lot of research we did with Salida too of what's happening, because we could see the gentrification coming here. And what's happening is they're getting pushed. Their workers and their housing from Salida, they're coming down now into the valley. And we really are at the end of the road. We're like going, well, where do we go from here, folks? So I just wanted to bring that equity piece. And I know, Mo, you did a lot of work looking into that too. And we've got Colorado Public Health, and what are their initiatives with equity, and where are the other pieces? So we're looking for that on all broad levels too to support this group.
So, Liza, we met actually the first time when I came to the meeting with my dad. And everyone here was at the meeting, including many of the other community members, and it was the last public meeting before the decision was going to be made whether or not to adopt. So, boy, I mean, I know that week was exciting for me. I drove up from Taos, 3 hours, and then 3 hours back, because I just had to make the meeting. There was no ifs, ands, buts about it. And I didn't really have time to prepare. So it was just kind of a matter of, okay, well, if we have to make this meeting, we've got to leave at, 3 o'clock because the meeting's at 6:30 or whatever. And then we're going to go home, and we're going to be home at midnight. And at least we'll have given everyone our 2 cents, What was that week like, though, behind the scenes? And what was the reaction, from everyone kind of on the panel and the board? Like, I'm really curious, genuinely, actually really curious, because the way that it happened for me was, you got to go to this meeting. This is the meeting to be at. If you're going to voice your 2 cents, you got to be there. So I went. I was there. Sean, amazing, beautiful, shared his life story. We shared our 2 cents about it. We shared some facts. We also shared our emotions, how it made us feel. It was a really incredible meeting to see the community come together. But between then and between the day where you had made the decision to say no, that we're not going to adopt these codes, what was that like behind the scenes?
Well, thank you for asking. So that was a gathering. We wanted to gather all the builders of the county and hear from them what this meant to them. And so I would say we had 55 to 60 people in the room. And there was a large presence from this part of the valley. We had builders from the La Garita area, from the center area. And the consensus in the room from the builders who spoke was that they did not want to see building codes. There was a lot of owner-builder presence in the room. I really experienced from the stories that day, and so did others, the reality of an owner-builder and what that is like, and the freedom from a mortgage, which I am somebody who just burnt my mortgage after 25 years of paying, but a little house in Saguache. But it was brought to our attention because the big fear thing was that if we don't adopt these 2018 codes, in 2 months, we're going to be forced to adopt this 2021 code. And it was, the bar for that, like I said before, was really high and really expensive. And it was really these folks who brought to our attention that if you read House Bill 221362, that's the legislation in 22, the energy legislation that this was all a result of. It does say, and it was pointed out, thank you so much, that if you have no building codes, paragraph 3 does not apply to you. And if you read that, we were free from this fear that we'd been under, this threat. And when we realized that Saguache County with no building codes was not under this legislation to adopt energy code, that was a beautiful thing. And we all agreed that all 3 county commissioners were unanimous that we did not want to put building codes on our constituents with the little information that we had, and instead that we would create a task force and invite folks to come and help us understand the rules, perhaps create owner-builder code for our county, and be prepared should it come at us again. But so far, that legislation, really, if you read it deeply, you see that a county with no codes is not under the law.
I'm so grateful that they heard us.
That list. Okay, that's great.
I'm really grateful for everyone who showed up to the meeting. This was a lot of pressure on everyone. It wasn't just pressure on us as owner builders crawling out of the dirt holes or tiny houses that we live in to come give our 2 cents. This was pressure on them. You know, you could see it in the meeting. It was not easy. You know, this is not like, oh, well, they're the ones who are trying to do this to us. No, the state is doing this, and they're the ones having to turn to their lawyer and say, do we have to do this? And the lawyer's like, I don't know. I don't think so. It doesn't really seem like you guys have to do this. So it was a pressure situation overall. But anyways, we got counties with no building codes.
Right on. So here's a list. When we say Frontier County, that's a federal designation that some of the state, at least in its health department, state of Colorado and its health department system, acknowledges this phenomena. But here is a list of the counties and some information about them for the frontier counties of Colorado. And thank you, Liza, for sharing that with us. Saguache County has no building codes, but land use permits are required. According to one reader, the county has one of the highest concentrations of off-grid and alternative building folks in the nation. So the owner builders and experimenters are here. Mineral County. Sedgwick County, no building codes, but permits are required. Baca County, Costilla County. It seems the county requires permits but does not have any building codes. Check with the county first. Phillips County. It appears that the county only enforces the National Electric Code. There is zoning, but that's not the same as code. Washington County does not have building codes in effect but does require permits. Custer County, no building codes but does have zoning. Delta County, note that Delta City and incorporated areas do have building codes. So that's important to understand. The county, cities can take on codes when the unincorporated county area has none. And Montezuma County is listed here, and Prowers County. They require zoning permits but do not seem to have building codes. So I want to say one other thing about codes, and that is anyone can add building code stipulations to a contract. So if you are building yourself and you want to get insurance, and the insurance company says, sorry, we won't insure you unless you are built to code, you can enter into a contract with the insurance company that you are building to code. You can do that with a contractor if you're a builder. You can do that if you're trying to get a loan. You can get inspected to code level and have a contractor build your house to code for a bank mortgage. There's nothing stopping anyone from using code directly in their own life if they want to. That's quite different from having codes imposed at a government level on everyone, regardless of whether they want it or not. And so that's part of the liberty piece. It's like I'm not advocating personally that nobody build to code. Do it if you wish. I want you to be able to have the liberty to choose, and that's quite different.
But also with that, with the building to code, a lot of the contractors here do build to code. It's not to say that we have shoddy carpenters. We have really phenomenal contractors here in this county that are doing their best because they don't want callbacks. So a lot of us do build to code, just to clarify that. But also straw bale houses can be built to code, and other natural methods can be built to code as well.
Any more thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to say one of the problems with the codes is that they honestly they're sort of like market security. Everybody jokes about job security. Well, industries like market security where you have to buy their stuff, and that's a lot of what code does. And so it's very focused on industrially uniform materials that are manufactured. When you're talking about natural materials of any kind, where it varies from place to place. I mean, you can, when I'm building with cob's a clay soils, sand, and straw mixture. When I build that way in my own yard in Sacramento where I used to live, I got a 1/4 acre in Sacramento and it's flat as a pancake. It doesn't look like it's diverse, but it's got 3 completely different subsoils that have different properties. So everything varies. Code is not intelligent about that variability. It wants uniformity, not variability. It doesn't want to have to deal with variability. So that's one aspect. The other thing is that code is really not very smart about passive solar, high mass buildings. Cobb is a high mass building, earthships. None of those things are particularly captured by the specifications of code. And so, intentional or not, those types of buildings can be easily excluded by some code stipulation. You don't even know it. And you're building and you think you're fine, and then someone who knows the code exactly says, well, no, actually that's a violation because X, Y, Z, and it makes no sense. Because there isn't a built-in intelligence in codes to many of these alternative ways of building. And when I say alternative, I don't mean so experimental nobody knows anything about it. Earthships have been in service and use for a long time. Straw bale buildings have been very well proven in many places. Cobb, my mentors from Wales and what the Welsh have built cob houses forever. He told the story that when he was in high school, he dated a young woman whose family had been living in the same cob house generation after generation for 900 years. So, I mean, you talk about a proven building style. It's proven. We don't have anything to prove. There's nothing wrong with these houses. There's no need to have a government intervention. There's no need to regulate. There's no victim. There's no crime. None of it. So I think these are things that are really important to hold in mind when we're thinking about codes and what they can and cannot do and what they actually do in the real world. All important points.
Just a short thought, but just thinking about the ancestors that we stand upon and thinking about Mesa Verde and how we built homes right out of the adobe clay of the ground, and many of those homes stand, and that's a legacy of building that we have in this region.
Yeah, we almost owe it, honestly, to the ancestors who lived on this land before us. The discussion is... Some people say we shouldn't even live here. I'll just say it bluntly. There's certain principles of building that suggest you don't build in the most beautiful place. You don't take a road it's like an hour to drive to the end of the road, and then you have this amazing mountain, and then you go, okay, well, this is where we're going to build. It's like, no, you go to the watering hole where everyone's gathered, that's in the valley, and then you have a sacred pilgrimage to Ojo Caliente or the hot springs or what have you, right? I'm not someone who lived here my whole life. I'm not talking like I have some kind of, deep connection with the land or something like that. I'm from New York State. And I honestly just felt horrible growing up in school learning what they did to the indigenous and just the whole thing. It's not like what they did, who did, whatever. The whole thing is just, to me, it's just, if we could take one lesson from the peoples who came before us in this region, in New York, then you're talking a totally different building style. You're talking teepees and wigwams and things like that. But in this region, you have the subterranean homes. You have homes that are built with adobe block. You have the ground that we live on is actually a building material, and that's a beautiful thing. And the stone is a building material, and that's a beautiful thing. And if anything, that's a way to preserve the culture that we've so, aggressively kind of stamped out historically. So I don't want to rant too long about that, but that's just kind of what came up organically from what you said, is that actually this has a much more greater impact culturally, socially, and what I wanted to say, what I'm kind of saying here with this, is that this place, this frontier community, these smart, intelligent people with a big heart that are actually willing to work and read the rules, they looked at something and said, hey guys, it looks like you're about to get married to this crazy person, and you haven't even met them yet. That was what looking at the codes was like. It was like, boy, you haven't even met this person. Like, there's like 50 pages of stuff here. Like, you got to do the dishes, and you got to give me back rubs, and every night I want 3 oranges cut lengthwise, and I need my sandwiches to be cut and stacked, and there can be no onions on it. You have no idea who you're marrying right now. You know what I mean? And you only have 2 months to read the paperwork. I would never marry somebody just 2 months, and hand me a stack of paperwork. You're crazy. What I would do is I would listen to some really concerned, educated, awesome people in a small frontier community who are offering solutions that are actually global, national solutions, you know what I mean? To big problems, systemic issues, poverty, things like this. Big problems. So my question becomes for everyone here, where do we go from here? And obviously, if you're in the audience, you've been listening this long, we want to open up for Q&A in just a second and talk about whatever's on your mind, whatever questions you have. But just briefly, I want to say, where does it go from here? Because it's not just that we're up here and we know what we're, we're the ones talking and we know. It's like, no, this is, we're here, and I presented this panel this way because there's going to be people out here who this rang true to you, and you want to, be informed, or you want to, get involved or whatever. This is really an active movement now. We have the choice to go from, oh yeah, I remember that Saguache County, or oh, I remember that short list of counties where they had freedom. Yeah, that's 10 years from now. Yeah, that's not anymore. Every county had to adopt codes. The state just had their way with us. It's like, no, this is a group of intelligent people coming up with solutions. And just briefly, I'd like to run down the line here and just talk a little bit about the solutions, because we've gotten to the point now where we've told the story. This is what happened this year. If you didn't know, now you know. They said no, but now the work begins.
So you have a question? No, I'm just.
No, go for it. Sorry.
So you asked the question of where do we go from here? I think, we've got a unique opportunity here in this county and in this valley to maintain the traditional methods that, there's a lot of people doing here. Sean is doing cob and cob variants. We've got straw bale builders. There's aircrete demos that are going on. There's hempcrete. There's roughs on lumber. You're doing a sod roof on the natural build. We've got a natural build on the corner before we come into town for the energy fair to model the things that we can do here. And I think we've got to, I don't want to use the word fight, but I think we have to fight to maintain these systems. Right now I'm building a house that's called Net Zero. It's a $2 million house here in Crestone. I would much prefer to live in a cob house than a Net Zero house, even though it has hemp wool insulation and cement board siding. I would much prefer to work with natural products that are, that are coming from the ground here. A lot of us have amazing clay in this valley. We've got scoria rock in the valley. We've got trees full of wood. We can do so much here in this valley, but we have to protect it. But I think we need to work with the county and work with the state to preserve that. We can't, and we need volunteers. We need people to come to the table to help us in that process because, the energy exchange, we are a small group of volunteers. We put forth hours upon hours upon hours for nothing. I mean, we're not making money off this, at all. And Nick's shaking his head. We're not making money off this, but we're doing this to preserve it, and we care about it, and we're passionate about it. So what do? I think we work together as a team, as a community, and protect and preserve these traditions of old.
So as we talk about this, though, we have to also look at we've talked about the mortgages, we have to look at our banks and the banking system and getting loans. And so as we go forward, I'd really love to see that. And so Aventa Credit Union, they're one of our sponsors of the event, so we want to thank them. But what can we do, Aventa? What can we do locally for loans? Because I want to use an example. When I was trying to build, because I wanted to build in the Baca, I wanted something simple. I knew it could be a natural build. I knew I was shooting for 50 grand and under. So I applied through Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America for a low-income loan. 2 years, I had to go up to Denver with all of my bank statements, to my credit, to where my bills on time, and I had an impeccable record. Like, I didn't have a lot of outflow, but I had to demonstrate that consistency. I was denied. So I was like, well, hey, Lisa, there's this USDA program. They also will do low-income loans. I applied through that. Again, denied. This time, it was because I wanted $50,000. They wanted me, because of the local housing market, that the minimum I could borrow was $150. So once they pushed me to that level, then I couldn't qualify because I couldn't prove that I could be at the $50,000 level. I would be fine. And so I really want to see that with banks, credit unions, with loans, like looking at these real solutions, not going with the industry, because if we've got this global push that we have climate change and we need to reduce our resources and we need to reduce our impact, and then why is everything being pushed the other way? More, bigger, more expense, faster. So as a people, we're getting torn with the messaging too of which way we're supposed to go. Where do you go? And I've just found simple, what can you do with the resources, and especially as locals we have. So thanks.
Thanks, Lisa. And you said we could say what's on our mind, so I'm going to talk about Blackwater for a minute. And I never thought that would be like the issue that I care most passionately about as a county commissioner, but many of my constituents are in the KV Estates and in Mineral Hot Springs area, and they've been able to buy a piece of land and are trying to build on it, and they have this insurmountable barrier that our regulations. And one of the things I learned as a new county commissioner, that really the county is an administrative arm of the state. We follow state statute. We can make regulations and codes that are more stringent, but we can't not go along with state statute. And so Regulation 43, the on-site water treatment system regulation, says that you have to have an engineered septic system that with, soil testing, et cetera, to build a home. And once you have that in place, you are welcome to have a composting toilet or an incinerating toilet and not use your septic system, and you can use your alternative toilets. So, and I asked Chuck Quasino, the coordinator of this for the state, and he said, yes, that is true. It's not a public health issue like it's presented. It's title transfer issue. They want to make sure that the next person that buys that home doesn't put in a flush toilet and flush it out into the, hinterland or into a pit and not be compliant. So after a lot of conversation with the county commissioners and land use, we are all working together, united, to try and change state regulation around this. A lot of people who own land are being asked to cease and desist and leave their land and become homeless. There's no other alternative because they can't cross this barrier where they could afford these alternative sanitation systems. And so there's two ways to approach this. One of these is that Regulation 43 is being upgraded and they're having stakeholder meetings. The next one is September 19th, next Tuesday at 1 o'clock, and several of us have been attending those and speaking out for our community. The other one is that we're trying to get with our legislators and actually create legislation that will hurry this process up and say that you are allowed to have an alternative system and you don't have to have that septic system. So that's what's on my mind.
Thanks, Liza. Directly related to that, I'm actually involved in trying to engineer, design, implement one of these alternative systems that will be 1/4 or 1/8 the cost and just as effective and minimal water use, and get it approved at the state level. In other words, win the game at the table the state has set for us. If that's possible, I have some fabulous local partners, including Donovan Spitzman, who's out there in the audience right now, and Jeff Jeffries, and a lot of local innovators who are doing incredible things, part of the fun of Crestone. And I won't go into too much detail, but I will confess that I am cooking poo in my garage to figure this out. So, I'm getting down and dirty with this process, and hopefully we'll have an available system, and it's intended to be open source, meaning it can be anything from you build it all yourself with plans that are provided to you pay to have it built and installed in your place, and possibly creating local business and local economy. That's part of the issue here, is what can we do to create local business and economy. So as far as what we're doing next, what's next? A couple of kind of general principles that I look for. One of them is collaboration or partnership with the county, with regulators. Instead of us having the idea that regulators are somehow our enemies, let's work with them directly to come up with rational solutions. Be aware that there's a huge difference between local governance and people who are far away and powerful and don't know us at all and don't know our situation at all and have ideas about what we should be doing. That's very, very different. So there, these people can be partners. The other is participation in building and that sort of thing. Volunteering to help your neighbors build their house, learn something. Learn how to teach others to build, which is part of, I'm a building educator as much as I am any kind of builder. And I'm interested in helping people learn how to build their own homes with minimal tools and using the materials right under the ground. The demonstration building we have out front, which is a project I designed for the community and for the fair. When you see the natural stacked stone foundation, which looks fabulous, well, at least half the stone in that came from directly underneath the stone in the foundation trench. So it's a very local building in that sense. And really, if we talk about sustainability is mating with place. It's becoming connected to the place you are and participating in the story of that place in a direct way, in a material way, in a very deep and personal and spiritual level. So that's those are the things that I see are next in terms of basic principles and ways forward for us.
I wanted to open it up for audience questions because we've got something like 25, 30 minutes. Did you want to? Well, I thought if you want to stay up here, she could run it out. Would you like to?
Sure.
Somebody might ask you a question.
What's your choice? I'll come out. You want to go? Yeah, unless you want to. No, I don't. I want to come out with all of y'all. Okay, who's got our first question? Jay Sanders. Woo-hoo. Jay's got great stuff. Are you going to talk about water and why we're wasting that too?
But I want to just remind people, based on what Lisa was saying around the difficulty getting a loan, and I too applied for all these programs to get, first-time home builder stuff, but I already owned land, and there was just like none of the things. I didn't qualify for anything for various reasons. And what it just reminded me of is that, like, the system isn't designed for people to do it themselves. And that's something that we still have this opportunity to do out here, but just barely. And if we don't advocate for ourselves and support our county land use, our county commissioners, and the work that they're trying to do, we're going to lose this opportunity. And unfortunately, there's so much, money to be made, and I can't help but think that that's probably why engineered systems are, regulated as necessary, when otherwise we could be, using the bathroom at home for free, but we can't actually. It's $20,000 minimum for an engineered system out here. But the other thing I want to say is that there is, I want to get ahead of the regulation and start deciding what's important to us, what are our values, and getting that written down in a way that it can be adopted by Saguache County, if nowhere else. And stuff like passive solar. We should be encouraging people to save as much energy as they can by a simple design tweak that will totally cut your heating bill and your electric bill by all this stuff. Also, saving water. I was just looking up, because I was on those Regulation 43 calls, and Colorado uses 13 to 30 billion gallons of water a year flushing it down toilets. And that is it's just outrageous. When we're facing a water crisis in the valley, we're telling our producers to stop growing and stop producing, and then we're requiring people to use a bathroom in water, in our drinking water. There's got to be alternatives, and it is up to us to decide what these are.
Is that a question, Jay?
No, it's a comment. Other regulations we can.
Jay is amazing. Okay, who's next? No, okay, questions or comments? We love that. Thank you for all of that. Hello? Okay. I see Mo Van Walligan.
Okay, not really a question. No, so I just want to bring everyone's attention to the bigger process that was really key in everything that they described. So a lot of relational soil from 30 years of having a Crestone Energy Fair, and then the Crestone Energy Exchange, and then we moved into the process of being the Saguache Mindful County Land Use. But one of the big things that happened when we got to that point of trying to start with dealing with the minimum square footage was we didn't make anybody the villain. We tried really hard to not villainize what was going on and instead go for a model of education. So the group came together with everyone doing a lot of different research to go through and get the statistics to really educate our commissioners, because these guys have a really big job. I mean, when you start understanding how many meetings they're going to, how much information they're absorbing, that we took the approach to educate them instead of villainizing them really made a big difference. So then when we got to the second phase and we were trying to give information about septics, we took that same model again. And that information has made its way through the process. So then when we got to the emergency, which really was an emergency from the state level, we had a lot of relational soil to say, we're your friends. We are working on this stuff. We're not villainizing you. We want to get you information. We can be supporting your efforts to understand the nuance of what was going on. And, we have so much brain trust here. Sean using his daughter's mom was a really big deal. And our example is impacting other things, right? So if you aren't from this area, make friends with your commissioners, right? Get on their work sessions, right? There are very specific processes in our democratic process to help educate how to move forward to do something different. So this moment is really our county getting the process to be able to be an example for other counties.
Thanks, Mo. Yeah, if you haven't volunteered for a homeowners association, a town, a county, a board, they need your support. We need committees for all of them, every work group. Thanks. Hi, what's your name?
Hey, I'm Yarko Thomas. I'm a data guy, and one of the things that I know is I don't like the way other houses are built. I've got a little bungalow that was built 100 years ago, and it's all right. but I see better stuff out here. And I think anyone that's been in a sustainably, affordably, sensibly built house can outright see the difference. And I'm just wondering, especially like those of you involved with the legislature, understanding if we could reach out to the people that are in the market that are writing insurance with the data. You know, when if they right now, oh, I built my house for $60,000. It sounds ridiculous. They don't understand that it's off their range of metrics. And when you see the environmental, the economic benefit, the larger sociological benefit, insurance companies like security. That's what it takes to tie up contracts, titles, things like that. So hopefully, you know, more information, getting out democratically helps everybody.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, here we go. What's your name?
I'm Zach.
Hi, Zach.
Hi, I'm Zach, and you mentioned something about volunteering.
Yeah.
Maybe that, like, if there was a way to learn what you're all doing, and then maybe even the youth. I'm sure there's a lot of things online that people could learn, but maybe volunteering would help the buildings go up, the homes and everything, and then people could learn. The youth could go and join you all, and then they could grow up and be builders because, you know, in our society, like growing up in the States, there's government, and then there's a huge distance, and then there's all of us. So the more that we grow in the things that we do, and agriculture and everything that we need to do to change the things, the way that society is, and like your buildings and all that, I was just wondering if there could be some type of class or some kind of program where you could teach and people could join you, and people could learn, and in trade they could learn, and then it maybe could help you out with costs and everything and labor and all. Maybe it could be a good trade. Anyway. Thank you.
Lisa can probably chat about this a little bit, but we have a lot of
Louder.
ongoing education through the Crestone Energy Exchange. So
The fair. Goldie Mariola, who did the home tours, she's been really trying to get an ongoing education series started to have people come in, learn the different models and pieces. But I think he was also saying, like, with volunteering, I mean, at this point, you could send me an email to crestoneenergyexchange@gmail.com, and we've got lists now that at least if you're interested in up the Saguache County land use issues as they come up, you'll at least get an alert. But we need people. We need tech people. I need people that can build websites. You know, we're trying to figure all this out, but then as you're running an event like this too, you see we are finally filling the park because everyone's stepping in and taking roles. So, yeah, encouraging everyone to volunteer.
I mean, I think I'm an example of the type of kids you're talking about, you know?
Yeah.
I just turned 30 this year. I feel old because I've been pounding tires since I was 18. I'm not pounding any more tires.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that I got into it early and, you know, learned from the ones that were pioneering and learned their mistakes and learned what they did right and what I don't want to do. And I think that's what you learn as a young person coming into these types of programs, you know, working with homeowners who are just scraping by building, you know, a structure, and you're, you know, a young person and you come on the scene volunteering. It's all useful information. So I definitely advocate for any young person to be involved in builds like this, obviously with, you know, people who have safety as the first thing in their minds, because job sites can be a little squirrely.
Yeah. Not Brett. Hey, we've got Mark Talbot here with a question.
To the gentleman in the black hat, fine taste in felt, sir. My question, you made a very interesting comment, and my question would be to unpack what you meant about no crime, no one harmed, no one injured. I find that really fascinating as I study the UCC myself, and how unpack that a little bit for us and what you mean that, what does that have relevance for in building?
Well, I think it points to Well, an example that I know locally is a straw bale house that was built with a living roof. It's been in service and in use for 28 years. There's nothing wrong with that building. There are no leaks, no cracks, etc. And so what I'm pointing out is, like, why do we need a regulation or a law about this at all? Who is helped or who is served by having a law, regulation associated with this building activity? Anyone? Is there, if the purpose of government is to manage the commons, if you would, when we have a common impact, water pollution, air pollution, I'm blanking on ideas, but this is a basic idea about government, right? It's like if it's going to serve any purpose at all for individual citizens, it's to government our impacts on one another. So if you got criminal activity, you want to deal with that. Okay, we'll have a criminal justice system to deal with that. Fine. Okay, well, there's no crime. There's no criminal. There's no victim, as you were saying. There's no victim in this building situation. It was just somebody who built a house to house themselves. It didn't burn down. It didn't collapse on them or their neighbors. Or nothing happened. Nothing bad happened. So why? And so that I think is a really important fundamental question to hold, is because I think we have this general thing like, oh yeah, building codes, they're for safety. Oh, building, all this kind of stuff. And we have this idea that that's what the background purpose is. Well, I'm questioning that. I'm saying if there's no victim, if there's no crime, if there's nothing to do there, why do you have it? And start to question the need for them at all is where I'm at. Does that answer your question?
So do we have time for one more question or comment? Where are we at, Eric? Hannah Strong.
Yep.
Thank you. Anyway, this is a question. Where would you go to get a huge amount of adobe bricks? Where would you go? If we were going to do a major project here and it was going to be adobe, where would you go to get the bricks?
Brother, can you spare some clay soil? Yeah, it's hard to find around here. That's very true. Skoglund has a fair amount. Brett, you may be aware, KV area has some clay subsoil. Yeah, there's a fair bit. In fact, it's part of the reason why septic is such a problem out there is because the water won't perk. Too much clay in the ground. So KV Estates, Skoglund, which is very local here. I like local because you can see what the impact is. Hey, I got my clay or gravel from over there and I can see what they're doing. That's good if you can see them. Now, do you want finished bricks, like ready to use?
Or make them here.
Oh, okay. I like to make them here. You get all the youth involved and have them make the clay bricks, because then they learn how to build for themselves. That's a good thing. Any of those, aside from Skoglund, who's making soil bricks right now, I don't know anybody who commercially generates adobe bricks. So it would be a local effort and organizing a local effort with supplies from local suppliers, like either harvested by community members from a place like KV or by a commercial entity like Skoglund, which is able to extract and separate different kinds of earthen materials. That's what I know. Brett, do you have anything else?
Hannah, I would say if you are looking for adobe blocks or bricks and you want them made, talk to Sean. And I'm sure we can put together a team to make some.
Really?
Yes.
Huge, huge amounts.
Yes. We'll figure it out. It can be figured out.
Okay.
And I don't know if anybody participated, but in the town of Saguache, we just had a 3-day Adobe brick making workshop and made a great number of bricks, repaired a building, and also built a fence in front of the Floyd Smith Park. And Adrian Garbini managed that 3-day workshop and brought in an expert that taught everybody how to build them. So she could be Adrian Garbini has the Range. It's a art gallery on Main Street in Saguache, and she orchestrated the whole thing, and so she'd have more information. Yeah, I'd be glad to get her contact.
Beautiful, thank you.
You should probably take it away.
How are we doing? Did anybody else have a burning question? Mr. Baby? Man holding the baby over here?
Okay. Do we have time for one more? Sure. Okay.
Hi, my name is Caleb. So I'm from the Front Range, so I'm part of the problem with the big cities that are trying to screw you guys over. Sorry about that. I'm just curious what suggestions you guys have for people who are stuck in the codes and the system. So, for example, in El Paso County, you can't harvest more than 110 gallons of rainwater. That's enough to water a decent-sized garden maybe once. So my solution is just be friends with their neighbors, and then they don't report you, and then you can harvest as much as you want. But I'm just curious what other suggestions you guys might have, or kind of out-of-box ideas to work around the code, maybe temporary things, so like, a temporary gray water, recycling system. But just curious what your guys' thoughts are on that. Thanks.
Well, you can move. And then you could also go underground, So those are two things, but I don't have a lot of stuff that's jumping to mind.
Are you interested, baby man? Are you interested in making what type of home do you have? Okay. So do you know about the home energy rating system? Yeah. My main thing that I would say, besides growing your own food, and I understand you were asking about water harvesting, and gray water, that's not something that I can speak to because I'm not from your area, but you could definitely get your home blower tested and have someone who's a professional home energy rating auditor come, and you'd be amazed at how many leaks and things and gaps you can do to make the home energy efficient is one thing I usually say to people, because normal stick frame constructions can always be upgraded in that way. But obviously it depends on what you're passionate about, whether it's the rainwater harvesting thing like you're saying, that's what you're passionate about, then stormwater drainage is another thing too. And it seems like you're nodding your head like like there's nothing that we were going to be able to teach you because you've thought about it. But yeah, I mean, the discussion today, what we were talking about, if you would like to learn more, especially from this guy right here, because he's the one who's about to go get his hands in the dirt right after we're done here on stage. I don't know if everyone here knows where the building demonstrations area is, but if you go over to the Wellness Village, which is where the children's the park is and the children's swing sets and things, you'll see a sign that says building demonstrations, and you just walk right through the parking lot behind the park, and that's where we have the demo structure where you have rammed earth tires, which is inspired by the Earthship construction. You've got dry stack stone foundations, rough sawn lumber, you've got cob, and then we're going to be let Sean talk about it. He's about to get off the stage here, but before I give it to Sean, I just wanted to say, anyone who was up here, if you're passionate about getting involved, come and talk to them separately on the side afterward. And thanks for your attention and your care on this important matter.
All right, thanks, Eric. Yeah, we have a building demonstration area back there that's a real building, so you can ask questions about the context of each of these different kinds of building technologies in a real building and see and look and stub your toe on an actual construction. We have a whole variety of different types of systems that are going to be tested there. I'm about to go do cob. That's my background. And that is a permanent education site. So every year we're going to expand on it with garden walls. And it's also for the fair. And also we're hoping that it will host the continuing education series, because there's a lot of building to finish. You're going to go there and see, well, I see some sticks in the air and a foundation. What else is happening here? So so look for, I guess should be a sign-up sheet down there. But in general, Brett, how do we get people get in touch with a continuing education series? Ongoing education, sorry. There you go.
You don't have to look at my. It's ongoing education, but I think it's OES director. I mean, sorry guys, wasn't planning on being up here, so
Sorry.
We can put that out. But yeah, if you go to CreststoneEnergyFair.org, our website, then you should be able to find the ongoing education page. Or even on our Facebook group, Instagram group. We've got a YouTube channel. So ongoing education series is what it's called. And Goldie Mariola is that director. So you could go to our website, CreststoneEnergyFair.org, and that'll start linking you into some of these other places. I can't think of her
So this will be going on, indefinitely, and that site will remain publicly accessible. So, as you come to town, you can park right in front of it. There'll be information about what happened, the book of the build, so to speak, which will have all the information on how the building was built and about the different approaches and so on. So it's meant to be a catalyst for owner builders, natural builders, alternative builders, and education and learning about all of that realm. Over there. So come check it out. Even if you're not interested in getting your hands dirty or getting directly involved in a building demonstration, please come check out and see what's happening there.
Eric, one more thing to answer your question over here. What can you do if you live in the Front Range? Get involved, educate, learn. We do need everyone's help with these issues. Could be tech support. It could be spreading the word. You have a skill set. I'm sure we could be needing whoever, you or anyone else, to help out with this stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you're interested in seeing some homes, they're doing home tours tomorrow. They start quite early, so if you do want to go, if you're like, wow, okay, they're talking about all these awesome homes, I really want to go check them out. Goldie is also the one who is organizing the home tours, which start tomorrow, I believe, at 8, and then they go until noon. And so that's a great way to see some finished homes, not just construction sites. And then another thing I wanted to say is that this panel was made possible because the Off-Grid Guru channel sponsored it. And we've been documenting the going abouts of this energy fair for the last couple of years. So if you want to learn from some of the awesome people in our community, like Donovan, who had shown how to make papercrete some years back, hempcrete, aircrete, tire pounding, cob, straw bale. There's a lot of different things on there. We're going to be documenting the building demos this year and putting them on YouTube as well. And I just wanted to say, because Eamon, who was normally a part of our crew, he's a builder that was really passionate about bringing hempcrete to this area. He actually did a lot of leg work to get a source for, you can't just get any hemp. You can't just go to some hemp grower and say, hey, can I take what's out of your dumpster, unless you're prepared to make, a blender the size of a small car and process it yourself to build your home. If you want the actual raw hemp herd, and if you want to learn how to build with hempcrete, and if you want to see example structures that have been built with hempcrete, or if you want to contact Eamon, you can approach me later, because he's at the moment not here, wasn't able to be at the fair today, but he is a consultant, and he did do a lot of legwork to get hempcrete to the San Luis Valley area in a way that, like you were saying, how do you get adobe blocks and where do you source that from? Well, we know someone who has a direct connection to a clean and high-quality source of hemp herd for your building projects, as well as being a very knowledgeable consultant about the building technique. So I just wanted to say that because he wasn't able to be here with us on the panel today, but he's a great resource for anyone looking to go into that building technique in this area. Otherwise, thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming up.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks for having the discussion and all the work that went into saying no.